Welcome everyone to our Fireside Chat session featuring Tiarma Witte, CTO of Low Code Academy. Today we have the pleasure of diving deep into the world of digital transformation and remote work with a focus on how women drive innovation. I'm Saina Anwar, Growth Executive at Letsremotify, and I'm thrilled to introduce our esteemed guest who brings a wealth of knowledge and experience to our discussion. First of all, thank you so much, Tiarma, for taking the time to join us and support women in the field of technology. Before we delve into our discussion on why and how women are driving digital transformation in remote tech environments, why don't you take a moment to introduce yourself and tell us about your expertise?
All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Tiarma. I was born and raised in Amsterdam with a background in cognitive sciences and musicology. Then I switched to the field of tech development, specifically in low code. And from there, I rolled into a position as a CTO at Low Code Academy, where we have a mission to train as many different people to join low-code development.
Well, Tiarma, that is great to hear, and it's inspiring to see the steps you have taken in your career. So let's just dive deep into our insightful discussion. So, as we have all adapted to remote work and it has brought about unique experiences and insights. So, let me just ask you this thing that what's the most surprising thing you have learned about yourself during this era of remote work?
Okay, the most surprising to me before Corona, before the pandemic, when we all had to work from home, we would always go to the office, and I didn't even think about all the other things than your actual job that influence your day. So when the remote work started, I actually realized that all the stimulants of all the people that you have to talk to every day made me very kind of socially exhausted. And then when we started working from home, I did not speak to that many people in a day. And it energized me a lot, actually. So I did not realize that that social interaction is a really big part of like an energy taker for me. And yeah, that I really realized. Then another thing, but I think there's been articles about this, is how inefficient a day at the office can actually be, purely if you look at production and delivering things. Because in the office, you spend a lot of time just chatting with colleagues, walking around, drinking coffee. And then when you are home, you skip all those things. So your day is completely different.
So, how do you stay motivated and inspired when faced with challenges in remote tech environment?
Okay, so I think challenges are, they will happen if you work remote. They will happen if you work at an office, if you work from, anywhere you want. I did really like the questions because I never really thought about remote working specifically and the challenges and how I would deal with it differently. So back at the office, I think people would end up talking to each other really quickly, telling that you have a challenge, that you have a problem, asking someone for help, which is nice. But in remote settings, for me personally, it's a lot easier to take a step back to do something else. So either maybe I don't know, call with a friend that has nothing to do with the work, or I go to the gym, or I walk my dog, or I do grocery shopping. So I can really take a step back from the challenge instead of dive deep into it and deeper. And for me, it's actually really nice because you sometimes come to insights like, what path do I want to follow next? And then at some point I will include colleagues, of course, because you cannot, no man or woman is an island. So at some point you need other people for fixing your challenges. But yeah, the taking a step back and really leaving the problem is something you can physically do. For me, that really works to really just get out of the situation, do something else, and then return to the problem, the challenge.
So that's great. So that brings me to another question, that how do you maintain a healthy work-life balance while driving digital transformation in a remote setting? And in your opinion, how does remote work culture influence the dynamic of collaboration and innovation side by side?
Right. So let me start with the first part. The motivation for working remote and working on digital transformation was right.
Yeah.
So motivation.
Work-life balance in both of the things.
Oh, the work-life balance. Yes.
Yeah.
So work-life balance is a lot more difficult. I had to learn it a lot because you always feel guilty and you always supposed to do something productive and then you're not. For me, I think not feeling guilty is one of the tips that I would want to give everyone as well. We are all just human, and it is different. When you work at an office, the hours that you spend there is your work day. When you work from home, you feel like you have to spend the same amount of hours doing something for the company or for the end result of your goal at that moment. Other than that, for me specifically, this will not work for everyone, but my natural rhythm is not the office rhythm. So what I really like to do is I sleep in a little bit later if I don't have meetings. I can, if I really am not motivated or I'm not inspired, I can, again, as a challenge, I can do something else. And then when the time comes, I can dig in deep. Yeah, so that works for me. I think a lot of people might have a different coping, might need more structure. But for me, the freedom of not having some structure compared to the office actually helps a lot. But the work-life balance, do things that are not work as well, and don't feel guilty. I think that's the main thing that helps me a lot. And the second part of your question about how it influences collaboration and innovation, I think that's actually a very important aspect that people might not have considered at first. Because when you are in a real office setting, you will talk to people from different departments. Probably you will have lunch together. You might go for a walk. You might meet at the coffee corner. There might be a presentation and people walk by and they'll be able to join and give input. But in a remote setting, usually the meetings are very pragmatic. So you only meet with the people you really need for that specific thing. And that's it. Which means that collaboration becomes a lot less spontaneous, and to get input from different perspectives also becomes a lot less. And I think remote work does, if you don't really invest in different meetings for brainstorm and creativity, I think it kind of lacks in remote settings because collaboration is super, super pragmatic usually. Yeah, I don't know if you've noticed the same in your work.
Yes.
Yes, I think people will recognize, because you don't really think about all these aspects that normal, real interaction life bring.
Until you experience those things, right?
Yeah, because I started my tech career when I still had to go to the office in The Hague every day. And then at some point in the middle of my first job as a developer, we had to go home, and they said, oh, it might take 2 weeks. And it ended up taking months, and I got a new job in the meantime. But I really started noticing the difference, like, hey, am I just going to call someone because I want to chat about their family now because it's weird maybe? So the spontaneous human interaction, you only talk if you have a question or if you need input. And as for innovation, of course, you are more isolated. So as a developer, you can, of course, different occupations as well. But my experience, of course, mostly, it's nice for innovation. You can kind of disappear in your own thoughts in your own brain without all this input of people having opinions. So on the one side, you can get really cool ideas because the lack of input from others. But as I mentioned before, the innovation, I think, will in the end, especially on a company level, always happen because you get different perspectives and you throw it together and something beautiful comes out. That might definitely be less in a remote setting. Yeah.
So, Tiarma, can you like share of one tech-related project or initiative you are currently working on that excites you the most?
Yes, I can. So at Low Code Academy, we actually just launched a product and service called the Hybrid Mendix Bootcamp, because the low code that we teach in is called Mendix. For the people who don't know it, please look it up if you're interested. So we used to give classroom bootcamp. So you would have to be there from 9 to 5, 4 weeks. Even if it was remote, you would need to be there the whole time. So what we did is we're still improving it, but the first version is live now. It's like my little baby, so I'm very excited. We actually made lectures, tutorials, exercises, so people will be able, also people who can only work part-time, people who work in different time zones, etc. They will be able to learn how to become a low-code tech developer with us. And then every day we do have an hour of contact, like coaching, so we can still be human, don't completely become robots, and also get more tailored input based on what you already understand. So that's live now. We actually want to use it to enable companies as well, because right now a company is always depending on where are the developers and can we hire a new senior? Oh, it's so expensive. Can they teach us something? But this way, they can actually just use our bootcamp content. And if they already have one developer in-house who can explain stuff, they can educate people and get really good developers in-house without paying a lot the whole time.
So I'm curious what actually inspired you to pursue this particular project or initiative?
Well, there were personal reasons, and also maybe some more idealistic reasons. So my personal reason is I would also give the classroom bootcamp, and if you tell the same piece of theory for the first time, it's like, yeah, I'm excited to share my knowledge. Second time, you like it a little bit more because you feel like you really know how to go through the slides. And the third time you feel like, oh, how many times am I going to have to explain the same thing that I could literally just record or do something with? Other than that, I also did a bootcamp myself after my studies, and especially, well, maybe coming back to women specifically as well. It's at some point you start comparing to other people in the class, and you can start feeling like you're not good enough, like you don't understand, like you're stupid, because people with a technical background understand everything. And in this version, there is no one to compare to. So you can just find your own strengths a lot more. You can see what you're good at and the things that you don't understand, and you don't have to feel stupid, like, oh, but everyone else is quiet, so nobody else has questions, or everybody already understands. So there's that. And on the idealistic level of us as a company, what we're trying to reach is, right now, I think big tech companies, especially in low code, a lot of low code is used for logistic or finance apps. So it's a lot in the digital transformations of companies. Right now, it's usually very big companies. So it's kind of this little, well, this circle of all the success and all the good developers, and all the money stays in the same area. And we would like to use this because they can invest, they can train people, they can train them in, they can do everything because the money is already there, and the experience and skills. So with this hybrid bootcamp, we do actually hope to empower more startups in the Netherlands, but also, for example, we've been talking to Brazil, Mexico, Morocco. So we do hope to also help digital transformation in places where there might not be so much experience yet. And maybe also because of the valuta, money is worth more or less. We would like to empower and enable companies a bit more themselves.
That's great, actually, and really inspiring. So, if I may ask, what pivotal moment or inspiration in your career led you to become a co-founder of a startup, particularly as a woman? So, and start a low-code academy.
So I did not actually start Low Code Academy. The person who started it, he is a man, yes, René van Hofwegen. So when I was asked to join, I was just a developer and I was happy as a developer. But in all the places where I worked, there were already organizations and companies that had a structure. And when I tried to change stuff and I tried to do innovative stuff, I would always be blocked at some point because they would be like, yeah, this is a process. You have to be patient. We're already doing it this way. And then at Low Code Academy, because it's a startup, I was very excited that my ideas would actually be used in the real world. So I could actually see that if I try something, how the world is going to respond to that. And that is really scary. But I did actually go to Low Code Academy for that purpose, more so than my passion for training people. It was to really experience the entrepreneuring and to see what you can do if you're not just an employee. But for me, I think it felt like I wanted to see what my input could do a little bit more. And the fact that I was am a woman, I don't think it really played a big role. I was asked because when I did the boot camp with the same people that founded Low Code. I cannot say that in the past I was not heard because I was a woman or whatever. I don't have clear evidence. I do have some examples, probably also of me being insecure for not being able to do stuff and then being quiet, not asking things, and therefore just going down a slippery slope. And in this environment, maybe because I don't really think about the gender of myself or my colleagues at all, we're just really, really focused on delivering. And I think, that could be different. Maybe more prejudice from the founders in the beginning could also be part of my, maybe not executing my ideas or whatever. But no, we're just going for it. And now, yes, I'm also part of the owner of the company. So yeah, it's very exciting.
So that's great. And following up on that, in your point of view, what unique perspectives do women bring to the table when it comes to fostering innovation and digital transformation or revolution, especially in remote work settings or distributed work settings? So.
All right. So I think we have not covered the digital transformation in my answers a lot. Sometimes I find it, but I'm focusing a bit more on the remote work. If in the end we would want to focus on digital transformation, please let me know. But for the remote, yeah. So I don't know if this is familiar for the people who are listening, but I really, really noticed since the remote work, men tend to be more pragmatic again in, oh, this needs to be done. So we need a meeting for that. We need to make sure it works. And then there's this other part that humans need when they work, which is human contact, feeling seen, feeling heard, giving input, etc. And I think women I think a lot of places that I worked since the remote working had started, on very different levels have added to the other part. So, for example, remote drinks, innovation challenges, but also more brainstorm with interaction instead of just sending. So, that's definitely something that women for me, have added a lot more and have more eye for that it is needed. I mean, I think men also need it. I think everyone in the team always really likes it, and it's good for everyone. But I think this is something that women usually on their own have a lot better eye for seeing that it's missing and that it needs to be there. So yeah.
So could you highlight any specific challenges that women face in leveraging low code for driving digital transformation remotely, and what strategies have you found effective in overcoming those challenges?
Yes. So specifically, I am not like that anymore, but I think in general, I keep saying things like women may be like this, men are like this. It's of course a generalization and it does not go for everyone. Yeah. But in general, on average, women tend to be less loud in business meetings, etc. So when you are at an office, I think it already plays a lot that women are less heard and they speak up a little bit less than men. But in a remote setting, you also miss this body language where you can see that somebody wants to say something, which results in women actually being even less heard, so they will be less able to show what they know, their expertise, their contribution to the team, and they might actually miss promotions. They might, if you don't speak up, people don't hear. But in remote settings, people start screaming through each other, and it's usually like the loudest person wins, and that's the person we will listen to, which is usually a man. Yeah, and I used to be quiet and wait for people to finish talking as well. And then when the remote working started, my coping was to become one of the screamers. So I became a person who would start talking before anyone else could, because I wanted to say something. And then when someone started interrupting me, I would just speak louder. But I'm trying to do that differently now, because it's not good. It's a coping, because you notice that it works. So what I would actually suggest is a better way in the end, is if there is a person, if you, instead of doing all these meetings where everybody talks, just talk, maybe change the format a little bit. Like, for example, Miro board or something, where everyone can give input that is written down, and then have a person who can facilitate. For example, if you work Agile Scrum, it can be a Scrum Master who can equally have everyone talk and not just the person who screams loudest. And also, this is very scary for many reasons, but if you do feel like you are unheard or you don't like the way things go, I think you need to speak up. Even if, I did that, and I actually ended up crying in a bunch of meetings as well. And then, as a woman, especially, you get afraid, like, oh, am I now the weak crying baby that can, that is super emotional. But I think if you find people who understand you, who are on your side, we are all just humans working together, and everyone is somehow experiencing other people's behavior. So that is also something that I did a lot. Instead of just screaming, I ended up saying how I experienced certain meetings, certain behavior of people, and it worked out really well, even the crying. So I would still recommend. You don't have to cry.
On a related note, I'm really interested to know your thoughts that as a woman in tech, what advice would you give to others aspiring to utilize low-code platforms for driving innovation and leading digital transformation initiatives?
The one advice would be to just do it. If you're still in doubt, if you want to do a digital transformation, or you want to be part of a digital transformation, then I would say just do it. Low code. I'm very enthusiastic about it. I cannot say, of course, don't use high code, traditional codes such as Java or Python. I'm sure there's people who would say, no, just do that instead. For me, why I would give this advice is I love it. It is my career, and I made this choice at some point, and it's super fun. I think especially it has a lot of potential for startups and for people, also for smaller companies, to become more mature as a software company, because most companies that do digital transformation, they end up, maybe their business is something else, but they are secretly a software company because their whole business is inside of an app usually. So I think low code really offers a good way to stay in charge a lot more than if you hire out all the tech and you don't do it in-house, you hire a company remotely, whatever. I think low code is very good for that. As for people who would like to join as a developer, or maybe another function, maybe a tester, maybe Scrum Master, somehow join in the making of low code apps. It is very diverse. So you are very much in the middle of the business, where in tech, I know from certain traditional tech, it is a lot more separated. Like you make the product and someone else uses it. But the fun thing about low code is that it's a little bit of everything. So you are a lot more connected to the end user. And you can also give a lot more feedback, which makes it extra important that the people who make it are not just, as it is still now, mostly white males, but that actually the people who make the tech are also all the people who use the tech. So that should be everyone from all different places. And specifically, if you are afraid, don't be afraid. Just ask. Just make the mistakes and ask the questions, because it is made by people, so people understand. We can all understand. Digital transformation, it is all just a way of people to make life easier and better. I think tech in general is that as well. And I just really hope to get maybe a bit more about the part of inclusion. I just really hope that a lot of people feel like it is also their place to be part of the digital transformation and the creation of tech, because it is not something elite that only super smart people that come from good homes. We can all do it. So that's what I would really want to give. Like for me, it took me a really long time to realize that it's not normal the way it is now. It's not the way it's supposed to be. So I hope, I hope people feel the same way, and that we can create a diverse landscape to make everyone's life easier and better.
So that's an interesting viewpoint, and I do agree with you with your point that failures are a learning points. So,
Exactly.
how do you believe that remote work environments can be optimized to be better support women and foster greater innovation?
Okay, so I think the things that I might suggest might not be specifically for women, because I think women in a remote setting don't need completely different things than men or gender fluid people in a remote setting. But as we did mention before, I might have already suggested a little bit, is this talking thing, to have everyone be heard equally. So not everyone, I think women are, by society, whatever reason, women tend to, there's different expectations from women in society than from men. That means that women might often act differently. So you cannot expect them to feel the same, to experience, or to act the same way as men. I think it's very important to facilitate and to have everyone heard and seen. So a concrete example, again, is what I mentioned earlier. Instead of just having meetings where everyone talks, make sure you get input in black and white, and have someone to distribute the attention, and not just have one person, always the dominant person in charge, because you actually miss a lot of input from all the other people in your team, which could be women, but also maybe quiet men or whatever. Other than that, I did not really talk about that too much before, but women, of course, are very, most places in the world, women are still in charge of taking care of children in the household a lot more than men. And in a remote setting, I think this offers a lot of advantages, because maybe if a woman would have to go to the office, they wouldn't even be able to have the job. But still, I think in remote settings, it is easy to exclude women who have such tasks, which is unpaid labor that, you know, society benefits from, everyone, not just the mother or the rest of the family. So I think it's very much against the way we always say, like, yeah, when you are in business, business is business, personal is personal. But I think if you want to include women more, you really need to consider all the factors that play in someone's private life as well. Which also means if you can have meetings at different times than when the kids need to be picked up from school, consider that, or at least record things. Don't exclude women because they have usually some more other tasks than most men besides work, that they might want to combine with remote work. So I think for everyone, it is really important to consider that we are all just humans trying to make things in tech. And also specifically for employers, be aware of that you already have a prejudice, that you probably, every human that loves themselves, you are supposed to love yourself, you're supposed to like what you want and how you feel and think about things, but realize that you are not, your way is not the only way, and don't start looking only for people who do it your way. Be open to the exact opposite, everyone's input.
So, yes, I completely agree with you. And also considering the challenges women face, especially when choosing between job opportunities, can also be a bit challenging in my point of view. So, however, one can eliminate these challenges by opting for a remote culture. And I believe that in the era of distributed work, one can have more diverse and accessible global job opportunities as well. So, before we wrap up, I'm curious to hear your thoughts on the crucial matter, that is, that how can organizations promote inclusivity and equal opportunities for women to enhance their contributions to digital transformation efforts?
Well, this is difficult, of course. I think starting with knowing that who is representing, who is your goal, so who is your target audience versus who is making the app. I think that's very important. So if you say we are doing a digital transformation, the people who will be using our app is everyone, but the group who makes the app is actually only these two types of people. I think that's a good place to start for, I think if you want to include everyone who is your target audience, then start by defining it. Also, people have a blind eye for what they don't know that is there. So I would really suggest, maybe even as a company, do workshops, find out what is your blind spot, and ask for input. So don't ever think that you know how other people feel, and don't say like, oh, yeah, but I would want this type of way of working, or I would want it like this, so everyone else wants it that way as well. I think that's probably a good place to start. And of course, I could say the things like, oh, you should do hiring without knowing the gender or ethnicity, but that's not, yeah. I would also suggest that, of course, but that's pretty, I think most articles about this kind of stuff all mention those things.
So, Thank you so much for sharing your invaluable insights and expertise with us throughout this enlightening discussion. We truly believe and hope that women continue to pave their way into the field of technology, and your contributions are inspiring anecdote of progress. So, with your dedication and hard work, we have high hopes for the future endeavors of Low Code Academy and its impact on the tech industry. So thank you so much, Tiarma, for your time. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. It